Hello, and welcome to Friends in Faith. My name is Fritz. I'm the Director of Faith Formation for St. Philip the Apostle Catholic Church. We've been going through a series based on the lives of the saints, and in our last couple of episodes, we've been talking about saints from the past. Today, we're going to be talking about a saint from the present. This past May, Pope Francis decreed that 14 people will be canonized as the newest saints in the Catholic Church. And one of those people will be our first saint from the millennial generation, a young man known as Carlo Acutis, or also God's influencer. Carlo was born in 1991 in London, but grew up in Italy. Like so many people from his generation, he was someone who really loved movies and comic books and video games, and is very adept with computers. But Carlo also had an intense devotion to Jesus Christ, and especially his presence in the Eucharist. Now, after his first communion, just at age 7, Carlo actually said to his mother, "To always be united to Jesus, this is my life plan." Isn't that wonderful? Well, Carlo attended daily Mass as often as possible. He volunteered with the homeless and was well known for giving out any spare change that he had in his pocket. As I mentioned, he was very adept with computers, and even at a very early age, he was developing websites for his school and for his church. That ultimately led to a website that he created that focused and detailed all of the reports of miracles that were associated with the Eucharist. This was something that he developed in 2005, which was actually declared by John Paul II to be the year of the Eucharist. It was Carlo's way of showing his devotion to Jesus. Sadly, Carlo died at just the age of 15 in the year 2006 from leukemia. And again, before he died, he spoke to his mother and he said, "I offer all of my suffering to the Lord for the Pope and for the Church in order not to go to purgatory, but to go straight to heaven." Now, the effect of Carlo's witnessing of Jesus was immediately apparent to all of the people around him. Carlo's parents, who were lapsed Catholics, did come back to the church. Carlo's au pair, who was Hindu, converted and was baptized as a Catholic. But this was true not only of his immediate family, but also his entire community. And it wasn't long after Carlo passed that calls for his sainthood actually began. Now, the process of becoming a saint is something that can take many, if not hundreds, of years. The investigation of a candidate begins in the local office with the bishop. It moves to an office in the Vatican before then it even moves to the office of the Pope. It also requires that 2 miracles be confirmed to be associated with the candidate. The fact that Carlo's canonization and his sainthood is coming so quickly is partly attributable to the fact that the 2 miracles associated with him also came very quickly. The first was in 2020. 14 years after Carlo's death, and was with a young Brazilian boy who was not able to eat or feed himself properly because of a birth defect in his pancreas. Well, this young boy was healed, and it was because of his mother's prayers using Carlo as an intercessor towards the healing of her son. The second miracle attributed to Carlo was only just confirmed by the Vatican and took place in 2022. At the time, a 21-year-old student in Florence named Valeria was in a very serious bicycle accident. She was taken to the hospital and had emergency cranial surgery performed, only after which the doctors told her parents that she could die at any moment. Well, a few days later, Valeria's mother actually went to the tomb of Carlo Acutis and prayed for her healing. That same day, Valeria began to breathe again on her own. 10 days after that, the contusions that were in her brain had completely disappeared. And after only 2 months since what really should have been a tragic accident, Valeria herself actually visited the tomb of Carlo Acutis, completely healed, both physically and spiritually. The canonization of Carlo Acutis is expected to happen in the year 2025 as part of the Jubilee year with Pope Francis. And there are many in the church that are really hoping and looking towards Carlo as a saint to be an inspiration to the younger generation that is in the church, and that they may look for an increase in faith and a deepening of their relationship with God in the same way and in the example of Carlo. It's encouraging to see that a young man who was born into a world and into a culture that is so dominated by computers and by media and by the internet was able to remain and not lose focus on what was most important to him: his love of Christ and his presence in the Eucharist. Perhaps the greatest thing that we can remember about God's influencer, as he was known, is how much he was able to be influenced by God. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy your discussion. If you are interested in Carlo's website that does detail the Eucharistic miracles, I'm going to have a link placed in the notes below. God bless.